What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Don. I am very happy about the response that I got from my last video that I made. I didn't realize that it was going to be a 45-minute long video, so I was very happy at the amount of people that actually watched that video and left comments and liked the video and everything. So I was very happy about that, and you guys have given me a little bit more motivation to just create even more content. Like I said, this is something that I'm very passionate about and something that I could just talk a lot about in general, so it's very refreshing and fun for me to know that there are people out there that so quickly saw my video and commented on and all the things. So thank you guys so much for the support on the last video. I just wanted to say that first and foremost, because that was really cool. I definitely I don't have any expectations for my YouTube channel. It's just something, like I said, I just like talking about this stuff. So for me to be in a space where I can just kind of let this type of energy out and I can talk about these things, it's just really exciting for me. So I really appreciate all the people that commented and all the new subscribers and the likes and everything. Thank you guys so much for that. But today I want to talk about the top 5 credit cards for cashback that I would recommend for 2025. And before we get into the video, I just want to make a disclaimer for you guys. Always do your own research. I kind of want that to be the golden rule of this channel. Everything that I talk about always comes from my own personal experience with cards, and most of all, it's my opinion. At the end of the day, always make whatever decision is best for you in your particular circumstance. Don't ever just listen to a random stranger on the internet about what your financial future should look like, or what you should do. These are things that I recommend. It's my opinion above anything else, but it's not my financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. So I just want to first and foremost put that out there for you guys. But again, thank you so much for the support, and let's go ahead and hop into the video and let's talk about what the cards are that I really like, that I think are really great for this year in particular. In typical fashion, I'd like to bring up the landing page of the card so that you guys can kind of follow along with me while I talk about these things. But the number one card that I'm going to recommend for anybody is going to be the Wells Fargo Active Cash card. This is a 2% card. As we talked about before, the standard for credit cards is always going to be 1% back at the very lowest, 1.5% back in some cases. 2% is typically the best that you always kind of want to go for in the credit card space. So that's why I'm recommending this guy right here. If you are somebody who just wants a one card setup, you don't really want to have to keep up with a bunch of different things, this is a great card for you, especially if you're just wanting to do cashback. As you guys know, cashback is my favorite thing. So this is a great card for you. This is a 2% cashback card that will just give you flat 2% back on all of your purchases at the end of the month, or not the end of the month, but at the end of your respective cycle for whatever that is for the card. All the money that you have spent, you will get 2% back of that, and it goes into its own little fund. And I like to see those as saving accounts. So you may hear me say that sometimes. Of course, it's not an actual savings account, but it doesn't expire, right? So any money that you accumulate from your purchases just kind of goes into this little rewards program, and you can redeem that money whenever you want as a bill credit, or you can get gift cards and the whole nine. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, but in general, typically I like to just store up as much of that cash back as possible. It's really nice to just have a set aside some money somewhere that you can use if you're in a pinch, or maybe you have a random emergency that happens, and then just you know what, let me throw the credit card money at it just because, right? So this is one that I really like. As you can see here, the sign-up bonus for this card is going to be $200 when you spend $500 in the first 3 months, which in America, if you're over here, that is very easy to do. And because it's a 2% card, you don't have to worry about a specific category or something to try to maximize and make sure that you get the best bang for your buck. It's very easy. You just pay and you get 2% back. No problem. Very easy. So I love this card. This would be definitely my number one card that I would recommend for everybody if you're just now getting into the credit card game, or if you just want a simple setup. All right, so the second card on my list is going to be the American Express Blue Cash Everyday card. Now, this is kind of a twofer. I just wanted to kind of go with a all zero annual fee for most of these, or actually like all of these cards that I'm going to be recommending are going to have no annual fees on them. But I say that this is a two-part because this card has like a big brother version of it that if you watch my last video, you know that I love so much, but we're going to talk about this one for now, just for a second. So this card is very good for multiple categories. So as you can see, you're going to get 3% back on groceries, which is a very big category for most people. You know, it's kind of where people spend the most of their money in a month. So 3% back on a very big portion of your budget, up to $6,000 a year, 3% back on US online retail purchases. So like Amazon or like Etsy, things like that. You also get 3% back on gas up to $6,000 and then 1% back on everything else. Sign up for this card includes a $200 bonus when you spend $2,000 on the card within the first 6 months. So it does give you a lot more time than like the Wells Fargo card. So you get 6 months and $2,000 again. Pretty easy to hit that over a 6-month period. So I would say you probably wouldn't have any issue hitting that. You will notice that this offer is pretty much on all these cards that I'm going to be talking about, the 0% APR offer, where you're not going to incur any interest on this card in the first 15 months of owning it. So if you do, you know, just so happen to make a very large purchase and you have a balance that carries over, you won't immediately get charged interest on that. But another rule that I'd like to make for this channel is always encouraging people to understand that we don't ever want to have a balance that carries over to the next month on our credit card. So I really want to, if I can give any advice, it would be that. My strongest recommendation rather would be never carry a balance on your cards, even if they do have a 0% interest, because I believe that, you know, that can become a bad habit for a lot of people, and I never want to be the spokesman for a bad habit. So I do not support carrying over balances. Always pay your card off in full. Never leave a balance on the card. That's just my thing. Don't do that. But why I say that this card is a kind of a twofer is because of the Big Brother card, which I'm going to pull up that card now, just as, you know, so somebody else know, just in case that you guys are interested in the bigger offer for what this other card offers. So this is more of an honorable mention. It's not necessarily on the list, but they go hand in hand so well. And like, if you have this card, you can also kind of upgrade this card to the other one. So I'm going to pull that one up for you guys now, and boom. And it is the American Express Blue Cash Preferred card. You probably already guessed that when I was talking about it, but this card does also have a sign-up bonus. That sign-up bonus is typically $300 once you've spent $3,000 in the first 6 months of owning the card. The reason that it isn't actually listing the sign-up bonus is because this is American Express's like website, and I am already an owner of this card, so it's not going to show the sign-up bonus for you guys, but you will get that offer if you're signing up for it for the very first time. Also, as far as the annual fee is concerned for the card, it is $0 for the annual fee for the first year of owning it, and then $95 a year after that. So I like to say that you almost get like a free trial with this card when you sign up, because you get to use it and get all the perks and benefits of this card without having to pay for them for that first year, and then you get to really decide whether or not this is a card for you. So as far as the categories are concerned, you get 6% back on groceries up to $6,000, 6% back on select streaming services, which in my experience is basically all streaming services. I even got 6% back on Crunchyroll. So if you're an anime fan, you'll even get 6% back on that. But you get 3% back on transit, 3% back on gas, and then 1% back on everything else. So as you can see, you get a little bit more categories. I do like the 6% on streaming a little bit more than a little bit more than online retailers, because typically there are better cards that are better set for online retailers. So I don't necessarily love that feature of the card, but for the groceries, like I said, that being one of the biggest things for a lot of people, it's very, very good. Plus you can also use the card for gas, which I also think is great. So for those of you that only want one card, you want a very simple setup, those categories can be really good. Because you get 3% back instead of just 1% back on them. So something like this, because it gives you so much in other categories, even this could even be better than like a 2% card sometimes, just depending on what your purchasing nature looks like. So it kind of also depends on where you live and just how you spend your money, but very good categories. And I almost left this out in the last video when I talked about this card, but this is another huge benefit of this card, and another reason why I like to talk about the streaming portion of it. Disney basically owns everything now. So when it comes to streaming, Disney has a bundle where you can get Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN, or now HBO Max is also now added into this with no ads at all. You get $10 back whenever you pay for that subscription using this card. So that's a beautiful credit that you get using this card. And that's something that I love. No ads. All of those different streaming services, you can get all three of those for about $30 a month. So when you get this $10 credit on top of that, you're basically getting 3 streaming services for the price of Netflix by itself. So that's the biggest thing to me. I actually don't even subscribe to Netflix. These are the only 3 streaming services that I have, and that's a hell of a deal. That's amazing. So if you're into streaming services and that's something that you actually purchase, I would recommend this card over the Blue Cash Everyday card, but you really can't go wrong with either. So that's why I kind of wanted to put both of these together, because it really just depends on who you are and like what you value more out of those 2 different things. But for no annual fee in the first year, you can't go wrong with this card. And if you decide that, hey, I don't see the value, I don't want to pay another $95 like when this card goes after the first year, then you can downgrade the card to the Blue Cash Everyday card. So that way you don't have to get another hit on your credit, and you get to maintain benefits that you get from this card. So beautiful. That's going to be our number 2 card. So, all right, so this is going to be the number 3 card on our list. This is going to be the Capital One Saver Rewards card. This card actually has an elevated offer right now. They're going to give you an extra $100 credit to use toward flights, stays, or rentals booked through Capital One for travel during the first year. So just the first year, you'll get that $100 credit. The typical sign-up bonus is actually right here, which is the $200 cash back when you spend $500 in the first 3 months. So very similar to the Wells Fargo card with that sign-up bonus. It is a no annual fee card. We've already talked about this. Okay, you can utilize it if you're a high-level, credit card user, but it's not something that I'm recommending to people. We don't like having balances on the card. So as far as the categories are concerned, you get 5% back, completely unlimited, so no cap like you were seeing with the Amex cards. 5% back on hotels, vacations, and rental cars, but they have to be booked through the Capital One portal. It is 3% back on groceries, dining, entertainment, and streaming. So a lot of different 3% categories like that are through there, which are very all-inclusive. I do really love the streaming thing, because a lot of, at least people who are like millennial or like Gen Z age, like no one's buying cable these days. So being able to get 3% back, whether it be on your YouTube TV or if you're doing the Disney bundle, I think that's really cool to get some cash back there. And then 1% cash back on everything else. And this card does, it's normally a part of like a duo setup, I'd like to say. I say normally as in like people do typically like to pair this card with another Capital One card, which is the Venture X. That's like Capital One's like big travel card, because the cashback that you get from this card is in the form of points that you can transfer over to the travel card, which will just kind of help you with your travel purchases. If you're somebody who is on a plane, on a train, or you just find yourself traveling a lot, this can definitely help you out. So you get a lot of different like protections and 24/7 concierge service and stuff like that as far as travel is concerned. Also, you do get a lot of benefits as far as like Capital One shopping is concerned. So if you're somebody who banks with Capital One, like for your checking account or something, you may have heard of like the Capital One shopping, where like they give you all these different like credits and rewards and discounts whenever you're shopping online. So if that's your jam, this is a very good card, especially in the online shopping space. So that's going to be our number 3 card. Let's now jump into number 4. All right, this one may not come as a surprise to people who are familiar with the credit card space, but you may be surprised that it's number 4 on the list, but I'll tell you why. It's going to be not the Capital One, the Chase Freedom Unlimited card. Very similar to the Capital One and the Wells Fargo cards, though. It's a $200 sign-up bonus in your first 3 months after you've spent $500. So very easy to hit, no annual fee card, 0% APR, and The biggest selling point for this card is right here on the bottom. You got the unlimited 1.5% cash back on everything. Now, generally, you might ask yourself, well, this is 1.5, you know, that's not that great, you know, 2% on the very first card that we talked about, and then you got all these other cards. But on top of the 1.5%, you do have other categories here. So you get 3% back on dining, 3% back on drugstores, 5% back on travel, specifically booked through Chase, and then you get that 1.5%. So this card obviously makes the list because you're getting more than just the 1.5%. Being able to get 3% back on dining and then using this as like your everyday card, that was kind of like my thought process when I was making this list, is like cards that are very versatile, cards that you can use for just about anything, but I also wanted to make sure that it does speak to things that people spend their money on the most. So having it as a 1.5 card in general is just good to be able to, you know, use it for anything. But dining is probably second to grocery when it comes to like the biggest thing, of course, outside of rent too. But dining is definitely like top 3 biggest things that people end up spending their money on. So I do think that it's a very good card in that sense. And you can pair this card similarly to the Capital One card. This is normally paired with like the Chase Freedom Flex, which you can see here in the corner, and then paired with one of the Chase Sapphire cards, which is Chase's really big travel cards, which do have pretty large annual fees. So really just depends on who you are as a person in terms of whether or not the travel part of that matters a lot to you. But it is a very good card in that space. But also like the Capital One card, where those two cards are very similar because your cashback is given to you in the form of points, whereas like the Wells Fargo card is just cashback. It's only dollars that go into a little fund, and then you can use those dollars at your leisure. These are kind of hybrid cards where their points can be used for cashback or they can be used for travel, you know, if you meet these other qualifications, like having, you know, a travel card. So those are some big benefits for people. And that's, like I said before, I do like to recommend cards that are versatile in the sense that they can be used in more than one way. So I think that that would be very beneficial for most people. But really just depends on how you want to spend your money. All right, our 5th and final card is going to be the Citi Custom Cash card. Yeah, so this is going to be a 5% cashback card. You will earn 5% back on your top eligible spend category. So typically you have like something in mind that you want to be spending this card for exclusively so that you can guarantee yourself cash back on it. Because if you were using this as like a one card setup, whatever you spend the most money on, and however that is categorically assigned within the card, that's what you're going to receive the 5% cash back on. So you kind of want to be strategic whenever you are using this card to be able to get that 5% back. Sign up bonus on this card is $200 when you spend $1,500 on purchases within your first 6 months. So still very easy to hit to be able to get that $200 back. This cashback is given to you in the form of Citi thank you points. So similar to the other cards that we were talking about, these points, it's like a hybrid card too. You can use those points for travel if you have a travel card to be able to transfer those points out, or you can use those cards as just, or that money as just standard cashback. So as far as the eligible categories, it includes restaurants, gas stations, grocery stores, select travel, select transit, select streaming, drugstores, home improvement stores, fitness clubs, or live entertainment. So there is a wide range of things that you can get 5% on, and I love that. Of course, you have like the things that people spend the most money on are always going to be included in there. So I do think that that 5% back is very, very good. So this is a great card for you guys to use. It's not necessarily one that I would say that you would use in like a one card setup, especially because you're only going to get that 5% in one specific category. So you do need to be a little bit more strategic when you use this card. It is normally paired with other cards, but if you want to use it as its own, you know, one card setup, I probably wouldn't recommend it, but you definitely could. You just have to be mindful of like what you're spending your money on so that you can maximize that 5% category. But yeah, that is going to do it for our top 5 credit cards in the cashback category, at least for 2025. I do have some honorable mentions that I would like to share with you guys, just so we can go over a few more to see if that might interest you guys as well. I didn't necessarily want to put them on this list because I wanted this to be more of an all-encompassing thing that people can just kind of understand, really cut and dry, just so you can kind of get your wheels turning and figure out what would be best for you. But now let's get into the honorable mention categories. Now, this should come as no surprise to anybody. I rant and rave about the Robinhood Gold card. I am a crypto lover myself. This is like the #1 crypto card for me. 100%. I view this as an investment card. 3% back on everything. The app is very easy to use. Unlike all the cards that we just talked about, the cashback that you get from this card is instant. So whenever you use this card for whatever purchase, you will always get 3% back, and that 3% back that you get is instantly usable. So if you made a really, really big purchase and you got a lot of cash back from it, you can instantly start putting that money to work for you in the crypto space, or you can even use it for stocks. So it's not even all crypto. Robinhood is like, yes, a crypto platform, but you can definitely purchase stocks on the platform as well. So if you're a stocks person or if you're a crypto person, it works both ways for you, and that money can be used however you want, or you can just cash the money out. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but you could. And you know how I like to say that, you know, this is kind of like a little savings account? Well, with Robinhood, it's literally like a high yield savings account. The account that your money goes into whenever you cash that out and it goes to the Robinhood platform, that money sits in a high yield account that gives you, right now currently, you get 4% on that money. So 4% interest earned on that money so long as it sits in that account. So if you're trying to stack a little bit of money before you actually put that money into the market, or maybe the market's really up and you want to wait for the market to kind of dip a little bit before you utilize that money is going to be making money while it's just sitting there. So if you're somebody who really enjoys investing and you know that's something that you like, I recommend you go ahead and reserve your spot. This isn't just readily available to everybody, which is another reason why it's an honorable mention and it's not on my top 5 list. If you aren't currently using Robinhood, this is not a sponsor or anything, but it is something that I've now used for over a year, and I've really enjoyed having this card. So like my #1 honorable mention, if that's something that you're interested in. #2 on the list of honorable mentions is going to be the US Bank Cash Plus card. This card is a 5% card back on 2 categories, and currently it has an elevated welcome bonus, which is $200 after you spend $1,000 in eligible purchases within your first 90 days. So this card is great because of the categories that you get to choose. On top of the 5% back that you'll get on your quarterly 2 categories, you'll also get 2% back on other categories like gas, EV charging, grocery stores, or restaurants. So you could definitely use this card as like your one and done. This card does have a cap of $2,000 for your quarterly spend, and that is combined for your categories. So that is why this is an honorable mention, and it didn't make it to the top 5 list because, you know, if you were wanting to use this card for like groceries and like gas at 5%, you might end up going over that $2,000 cap. And if you do go over the $2,000, you are now only going to get 1% back on those categories. So that's why, you know, I wouldn't say that this is really just a one card setup. You definitely could if your expenses aren't that high in a month, but you can kind of gauge that for yourself and dictate whether or not this is something that you think you could just pull off with just one card. You definitely could. It really just depends on your level of spend. Now, for the categories that you can use this card for, the 5% categories that is, you've got fast food, TV, internet, streaming, cell phone, home utilities, department stores, electronic stores, sporting goods stores, gyms and fitness centers, ground transportation, movie theaters, furniture stores, and select clothing stores. There is so many different categories that you could be getting 5% back in that it's incredible. Now, again, based on how expensive just life is, that's why you gotta be careful. You always gotta be strategic when you're using a credit card, especially like when you're paying attention to the percentage back that you're gonna get on a card because of things like this. And with it having a cap, you just have to be careful because my philosophy is to maximize at all times. I don't use a debit card for anything except for an ATM. So for me, I'm only using credit I always want to make sure that I'm getting the most back for my money wherever I go. So yeah, you have to be more strategic with this. If you want a more hands-off approach, probably not the card for you. You do have to reselect your categories every quarter. So if you had fast food and home utilities selected, after 3 months, you have to go back in and reselect fast food and home utilities, or you will completely miss out. It will not auto select those things for you, so you have to make sure that you're on top of it. It's definitely a little bit more involved with this card, but so good. So that's what I would recommend in terms of the second card on this list. Now, for our third honorable mention, let's get into that one. For the third honorable mention, we have the Fidelity Rewards Visa Signature Card. This is an unlimited 2% card, very similar to the Wells Fargo card that we talked about, but this card is going to be an investment card as well. I would not recommend just using the 2% feature on this card to just use as cash back. If you are somebody who has a 401k set up with like your job, or if your like Roth IRA is set up through Fidelity, this is a very good card to kind of go in tandem with that. If you just want a one card setup that you spend your money on this card exclusively, I think it's really great. You can put it on auto renew every month. That 2% that you have accumulatively collected, that money will then just go straight into whatever the fund is that you have, and then you can basically just make more money on top of your money. So I'm all for making your money work. You do also have a couple other things here, like the $100 reward points when you apply for either the global entry or the TSA pre-check, which is really nice. Get you through the airport pretty quick. You also get the collision damage waiver, and you get a 100% reimbursement for fraud losses due to unauthorized account use. So Fidelity is a huge company. This is another reason why I always recommend using a credit card. You always want to use a bank that's going to be on it when it comes to any kind of fraudulent activity going on, and you want to make sure that you are safe. They do a very good job. I've also had this card for a pretty long time. I would say about 2 years now I've had this card, so very good. If you're somebody who just wants to keep it simple, and like I said, if you're already using Fidelity as well for whatever the account may be, very good card for you to use. Highly recommend. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for our list. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate all the support. Like I said, if you're new here, even if you're a returning viewer, thank you, first of all, for coming back. I really appreciate that. Leave a like down below, leave a comment down below, and subscribe if you're new. Let me know what you guys think about the video. Let me know if there's anything in particular that you guys would like for me to cover. Aside from credit cards, I do really enjoy budgets, so I've really been thinking about maybe doing like a budget video for you guys and like talking through those things, or maybe even like a story time video to tell you guys how I got myself out of debt using credit cards, because I think that's kind of a topic that would be a little different. You never really heard anybody do that before, so just let me know what you guys are into. I definitely plan to just make content just at my leisure and just like to let you guys know. Like I said, this is just something that I'm super passionate about talking about. Could do it all day long. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let's see, can I get at least one like on this video, and can we get one new subscriber? That would be really cool. Thank you guys so much for everything. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.